All right, House of Payne and assisted living fans. I decided that it would be a lot easier and it would make more sense to just do a combined video talking about the declining ratings for both shows on BET during the Family Fun Night that takes place each Wednesday from 9 p.m. to I believe 10:30. We got the lineup of House of Payne, Assisted Living, and the Miss Pat Show. Sadly, ratings aren't doing well at all. I mean, aside from the premiere for both season 11 of House of Payne and season 3 of Assisted Living, which both shows got a 0.7, I believe House of Payne got a 0.74, Assisted Living got a 0.7. After that, numbers just dwindled. We went from 0.7 to 0.5, 3, 0.54, 0.52. And I really want to talk about kind of a list of reasons why I feel both shows are failing and, well, what could be done about it. I mean, after having discussions with other fans over the past several days, because I know of a few Instagram pages that post, these kind of updates, oh, House of Payne and assisted living see ratings boost on this particular Wednesday night, or sisters ratings were low during this week. I love discussing these things with fans who talk about the good and the bad, not just, oh, I hate this show, while neglecting the positives of it, or, oh, I love this show, but they don't want to talk about the bad things of it. They'll talk about when a show exceeds rating expectations, but then they don't want to talk about when a show or episode does less than stellar. So this video is by no means a upload where I'm just, ranting and complaining about both shows. If you know me, or if you've watched my playlist on either Assisted Living, mainly season 2, not season 1, and House of Payne, you know that honestly I like these shows. And I remember during Sister season 3, I remember saying that, heck, I actually like Assisted Living better than Sister season 3, or House of Payne season 10 I felt was more enjoyable than Sister season 3 or The Oval season 3, just because I felt like I saw improvement over when Tyler Perry was doing everything himself, even though the ratings aren't a reflection of that. So, I'm going to break it down, give my 2 cents, and we'll go from there. If you're interested in that kind of video, then you're in the right spot. Hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit subscribe and hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. So it's always good when there aren't a lot of shows for me to review, because I can kind of step back and analyze what I'm actually watching. So, well, even more than I do before. I really look at the numbers here. But let's talk about House of Payne first. I think that there are 3 legitimate grievances. I feel like complaints is the wrong word to use, because I think about complaining as those who just talk about, oh, this show isn't as good as the original, it sucks, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, the consensus or the majority of House of Payne viewers I see say the same thing ever since the show came back. Number 1, and as somebody who doesn't know the original House of Payne series like the back of my hand, I grew up watching it. But then there was a point where they kept changing the time slot on TBS. So I know I missed a good few seasons of it, especially when I was transitioning from, the later grades in high school to college. I mean, I couldn't stay up to at like 11 p.m. to watch a damn House of Payne episode because I had college level classes the next morning in high school. So I couldn't do it. But a lot of stories in the reboot on BET are recycled from the original. Like I said before, I don't know this like the back of my hand, but going back to season 10, like when Ella had the breast cancer scare, and I think somebody on one of my Instagram posts, I think I posted the preview for this week's episode of House of Payne. Somebody's like, wait, the family is going to be tripping over each other, trying to get, good on Curtis's will. I thought they already did that storyline before. So yeah, recycled storylines is something that the show, I mean, think of it this way. The original series itself lasted for, what was it? How many episodes? Basically like what, 250 episodes? So I'm pretty sure a majority of typical sitcom storylines were already utilized. So now it's like they're kind of grasping at straws for the sake of keeping the show afloat. And as a result, there's always going to be the, well, hey, you did that in season 3 back in like, what, 2009. So what are you rehashing it again for in 2022? Which leads to the next point, the fact that this show is always going to be compared to the original. And despite season 10 and season 11 being much better than season 9, in my opinion, it's still not as good as the original series. I mean, I remember watching season 9 and I couldn't believe I was telling myself this, but there were times where I thought, damn, even the Paynes was better than the material that we're getting right now in the House of Payne reboot. So always having that comparison to the original series is going to be detrimental in the success of a reboot or sequel series, or even a new show that has a similar premise to a show that came before it, especially one with as many, I guess you could say, that has such a place in the hearts of, Black America. Well, not just Black America, but, those who can relate to a black family. So we go on to the next thing, which is, this isn't as bad as assisted living, but the lack of sets. I mean, we only have CJ's house, Curtis's house, and a few times we go over to Calvin's loft, which I thought he, put up for sale last season, but maybe we'll get to that point. It's not, maybe in season 11 or season 12. But a lot of classic scenes were missing, like the firehouse, Floyd's barbershop. Even if you added just those two, that would be great. And it's kind of weird because, and I'll talk about this more when I get to the assisted living portion of the video, but this is at Tyler Perry Studios, where he has a variety of different sets, hospitals, hotels. I mean, I'm just naming a couple that would have been really relevant. Like when Ella went to go, get her mammogram, I think, for to see if she had breast cancer or anything. Why couldn't we get a brief scene of Ella at the hospital? Hell, even when Lisa had her baby off screen, which of course we've never seen the actual baby, and I highly doubt we ever will. I mean, those sets really would have been great to see, just for the sake of making it feel real. I think one of the common things that people talk about both shows is, more often than not, House of Payne and Assisted Living come across more as plays than actual sitcoms, and I can kind of agree with that. Then the final thing about the House of Payne section I wanted to talk about before moving into assisted living is the missing characters. I mean, I've said it before, especially when season 10 really started to get good. Even though we're missing Janine and Jasmine and Claritha, the firehouse crew, the barbershop crew, mainly Janine and Jasmine, I think House of Payne was doing a good job with the characters that they were allowed to play with. Floyd came in and I guess you could say took over for Curtis when LaVon Davis was not in the show for some reason. I don't know if it was due to, testing positive for Rona, or if he was busy on another I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I just know that he wasn't there for a good stretch of season 10, and it was noticeable. But for me personally, I think Floyd did an excellent job, and it didn't matter that Curtis was there. But there were a lot of key moments where I felt like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Why isn't Curtis around during Ella's breast cancer scare? What about Janine and the fact that after, CJ gets severely injured on the job, Malik is burning out because he's trying to do school and he's failing at that, and he's in danger of losing his scholarship, taking care of his pregnant baby mama. And I'll never forget the moment where he had a moment with his dad talking about it. And he said that, and I'm here trying to take care of the twins as well. And, help with their homework. And they're trying to be internet stars. And I'm thinking, first of all, aren't they a bit too young to be on the internet like that? Secondly, they should be focused on school, social media. No, it's just ridiculous. So it just didn't make sense for the likes of Janine and Jasmine not to be around to pick up the slack. That's just way too much pressure for Malik. And I can go on and on, but to me personally, I don't mind not having certain characters there because to me, it doesn't make the story, you know? Or should I be more precise in saying that a good story to me personally is one that uses the characters that are available to tell a compelling story. But sometimes it gets just downright ridiculous when there are major events that are taking place with certain characters and those closest to them are not around for one reason or another. Now, Jasmine, she's in college. It makes sense. When you're at college, especially, well, I don't know if she's far away. I don't think she is. But when, a child graduates high school, and I say child, but, when a student graduates high school and goes to college, more often than not, there are a lot of things that go down that are life-changing you're not around for. Family members having children, like you are now an older cousin, or you have a nephew or niece or something along those lines. So you're all trying to grow up while things are happening while you're, not there. But Janine just not being around is ridiculous. And the fact that it makes sense that some of these actors aren't around because Demetria, she's doing her thing. She's getting that bread. But more importantly, I feel like she's doing a variety of different projects to really showcase her acting talents. Don't get me wrong. I think Janine is a great character, but at the same time, especially given this current variation of House of Payne we have, where exactly could her character go? Like I said back in season 9, I was really hoping that CJ and Janine would become a Uncle Curtis and Aunt Ella to Malik and Lisa, but that didn't happen. I mean, Janine was a guest star in season 9, completely absent from season 10, and it's debatable if she'll be in season 11. I mean, I've heard things she might be here for 1 or 2 episodes, but I don't know. I still stand by what I said a few weeks ago when the season started. This isn't disdain or hatred towards the character, but for the sake of the story, I think she should have been killed off. It was just ridiculous to me to end season 10 on such a cliffhanger. Bring back the show for season 11, and then that entire episode, you had a very emotional storyline about the possibility of Janine being dead, and we kind of saw what that did to certain characters, mainly Malik, but the episode really suffered from that 20-minute syndrome I like talking about, because in 20 minutes you can only do so much. I mean, this could have been like a mini arc, like even back in the original series, there were times where we have 3 to 5 episodes devoted to a storyline, like part 1, part 4, and so on and so forth. But it was such a great story that they were telling. The one that really comes to mind would be when CJ was trapped in the rubble during a fire, when him and his crew were trying to put out a fire, and he had a lot of flashbacks. And why not have a mini arc devoted to Janine's character? I mean, yes, it would suck to not have her on screen, to have her die off screen, but during the course of, let's say, 2 or 3 episodes, you would have a lot of flashbacks, and the catalyst for all the flashbacks wouldn't just be simply the characters remembering, the good times and the bad, but Lisa learning about Janine and her history, and the fact that the Paynes, specifically CJ, Malik's family, they aren't the sedity, bougie, upper class people that, Lisa thinks they are based off her own upbringing. It's the fact that, look, Janine was an addict. She burned down her house. That's why we had to move in with Aunt Ella and Uncle Curtis. And that's what led to, eventually reconciling. And then from there, having the twins and getting remarried. And, that's how we got to where we are today. So you trying to become this new version of yourself, basically being someone you're not. Lisa, don't do that, because Janine isn't perfect. And even though it would be sad that on screen, Janine and Lisa would have never had that moment to, get to know each other and really love each other as her future daughter-in-law and the mother of her grandchild, that letter, I mean, she could have, let's say, put that in the mail prior to getting on the flight, in the event that she couldn't make it in time for the birth of her grandchild. And then Lisa, after learning all about the history, got that letter. And even though she never got to really connect with Janine face to face, that letter was the final farewell. And I thought that would have been beautiful. Just saying. But we didn't get that. All we got was, oh, she survived. The plane, you know, it went down, but it's okay. And she's going back for an opportunity. I mean, after a life, you know, shattering event like a plane crash where you almost died, it was bad enough she got on a plane again. But to think that she wouldn't go to see her family is ridiculous. Again, in our world, Demetria wasn't available for filming. She was doing something else. But in the context of the story, it just makes her seem selfish. I mean, I know that CJ said that, oh yeah, she's going back to New York because she has, you know, a meeting tomorrow to pitch a life-changing this or that. She has a life-changing opportunity. Well, she almost died. You would think that her career at meeting would have been put on hold. I'm pretty sure the company would have understood, hey, our client who was coming in to, you know, talk to us almost died. Yeah, give her a few days and, you know, then she'll come back. So I think Janine's death should have happened. That's just what I'm saying. All right, now that's enough about House of Payne. And let's move on to assisted living. I didn't know this video would be so long, to be honest, but there's a lot to say about why the show isn't really doing so well. Assisted living, I'll get through this kind of quick. The first thing is, just like House of Payne, it's always compared to the Meet the Browns series. You know, the fact that Meet the Browns was the original story or the original show where you had Cora and Brown in a boarding house with residents in there. Essentially, imagine Hey Arnold with black people and, you know, 1 or 2 white people. But you have Will, Sasha. There was like a lot of continuity because what? You had Brown and in House of Payne. I don't think Medea ever showed up in Meet the Browns. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know she showed up in Love Thy Neighbor and she showed up in House of Payne, but I don't think Medea ever physically appeared in the Meet the Browns series. But then when you look at assisted living, you have Cora and Brown who partner in with Jeremy for the assisted living facility, and you have a cast of colorful characters who in some ways mirror those of Meet the Browns, but at the same time, I feel like they really have developed their own personalities and persona. You could argue that Reginald is kind of like the Colonel from Meet the Browns, even though some people would say Vinny would be, but I don't think so. Effie, I don't think really mirrors anybody from Meet the Browns. Miss Anastasia, I forgot the name of the older redheaded woman from Meet the Browns who was a movie star back in her day. But Sasha and Will, Jeremy and Leah, they had Hakeem and Brianna, and now you have Philip and Sandra. And I think that's it. Of course, you got Brown and Cora. And, you know, maybe there are a few more characters in Meet the Browns and assisted living. But with the cast we have, I think they really mesh together well. But the thing that most people complain about is the fact that it's only one set. It doesn't bother me as much as it used to. But at the same time, this show truly suffers from the show, well, telling instead of showing aspect, where there are a lot of big things that happen off screen that we should hear about. I mean, I feel like Jeremy got locked up 3 or 4 times in season 1, but we never saw it. Oh, we're going to go down to the jail and protest. Sandra is going to the mall. The kids are in school. Just a list of things that would be amazing to see to establish character, but we don't see it because we only see the assisted living facility, like the living area, the kitchen, sometimes Sandra and Philip's joint bedroom, and maybe 1 or 2 other rooms. I think we saw Vinny's room in season 1, Jeremy and Leah's room, but basically it's the same. It's the same location. Would more sets help? Yeah, it would. But like I said, I've gotten used to it because I think what really makes the show shine is the character utilization. where the characters themselves are bigger than the space they're living in. And I feel like that really shines through. But I do agree that more sets would help. Going back to what I said during the House of Payne segment, Tyler Perry Studios has all these sets and locations. You couldn't tell me none of these things we could have seen. Hospitals, hotels, schools. They're just a list of things that would have been great. I mean, heck, even in Meet the Browns, we got the school where Cora and Brown worked, and the hospital where Will and Sasha worked. I mean, it would have really made things kind of pop. I mean, we could have gotten other characters, not main characters, but kind of like recurring characters. But I think another thing to talk about is the fact that both shows, especially in Assisted Living Season 1 and House of Payne Season 9, and it's gotten better as the shows went on. The laugh track. Oh, God. I could not stand either of these shows when they first came out due to the excessive use of the laugh track. Go to BET Plus, and if I'm not mistaken, you'll find Assisted Living Seasons 1 and 2. I think Assisted Living Season 2 is on there. I need to double check, but I don't know. But in any case, go back to Season 1 of Assisted Living and House of Payne Season 9. Why the hell was there a laugh track after every line of dialogue? I'm not kidding. I mean, even stuff that wasn't even said in a funny way. But I can't be mad about it because they've improved. But if you go back to those shows, it was just so horrible. Even if it's like, Jeremy, I don't want to subject myself to it. That's fine. Go back to my playlist. I have reviews. I think for Assisted Living, I did not watch for like maybe 5 episodes during Season 1. Because Brown and Cora did not even show up in the show until like episode 6 or 7, I believe. The Weeping Willow or the Cleanup. Because I think Brown showed up like at the last second of one episode. I think episode 6. And then that's when Cora showed up as well. It could have been episode 5. I'm looking at the ratings right now, and episodes 5, 6, and 7 actually went up dramatically from episodes 3 and 4, so that could be it. But regardless, I think Assisted Living had the biggest sin. You could say what you want about Janine and Jasmine not being around in seasons 10 and 11 of House of Payne, but at least they showed up, multiple times during the season. Assisted Living in all the promotions had Brown and Cora at the forefront, pretty much the same as Ella and Curtis during the Payne series on OWN. And they were in episode 1. Hell, even the original House of Payne cast were in the first 2 or 3 episodes of the Paynes. And I know Assisted Living just did not have a good start because people felt deceived and lied to, and I was one of them. I mean, how in the world are you going to promote a Brown and Cora show? And people were like, wait, is this a reboot of Meet the Browns? Is it, does it continue on from that story, or what's going on? And you spend like at least 4 or 5 episodes without Brown and Cora, the people that folks want to see, establishing, Jeremy and his family with cringy dialogue and not the best acting. Look, it was season 1. It has gotten a lot better, but I'm speaking about the truth because I was one of the few people actually reviewing the show. Now, when it comes down to it, think about the Tyler Perry plays. When you're watching, I think the one that really comes to mind in recent memory is Medea Farewell. At the beginning of the play, the first few minutes, we have the cast of this, I forgot which characters, but basically, they were doing their acting, they were doing their thing, and, you had a couple giggles from the audience, but when the actual characters like Brown showed up, when Cora showed up, when Bam showed up, when Medea, the crowd went nuts. The thing about it that worked was the fact that it only took a few minutes. Just a few minutes for them to show up. We just need to establish who these characters were, the unfamiliars, and the relation that they have to the story. Okay, this is the mother of the guy that's graduating. This is his buddy from college. This is his aunt, and the list goes on. But then the story knew exactly when to bring in the people that the audience wanted to see. But at the same time, the other cast members who got not the craziest reaction from the audience, they didn't feel pushed to the wayside. They felt like they were actually important to the story. But when you have 4 or 5 episodes of those unfamiliar characters, people are going to get pissed. So by the time Brown and Cora showed up, a lot of people just didn't even bother watching Assisted Living, because it's like, look, I wasted like 5 episodes of this. I'm not watching. But then when they watch it, it's like, okay, they're there, but okay, it's not a good episode or a good show. Now, when it comes down to the ratings, I don't know exactly what's the cause. I think it's a damning thing for the shows to get lower ratings in their second and third seasons on BET compared to the first one, because I'll say it again, during season 1 of Assisted Living and season 9 of House of Payne, when the shows first came back, Tyler did everything: the writing, the directing, the producing. Now, when you get to season 2, he let the reins go. There were other people working behind the scenes. I mean, in season 10 of House of Payne, Tyler Perry wrote 1 episode, Home Invaders, which was easily one of the worst episodes of the season. But other than that, it was other people. Hell, even Calvin wrote episode 20, Fine Wine, which was a good episode, but conflicts with a lot of the character development we had seen in this season so far. And then we go from there with Assisted Living, where after season 1, Tyler Perry just gave full range to other writers and directors. So let me just, look, we're almost at the 30-minute mark. Just going to try to wrap things up here. Look, if you made it this far in the video, just pat yourselves on the back, because I know these shows aren't the most popular on the channel. They don't get the most views. So if you've watched this far, then you must be really curious as to why these shows aren't doing well. And I mean, there are those who just don't give a damn. It's like, look, it's like hashtag not my House of Payne, hashtag not Meet the Browns, not my Brown and Cora. But I just want to reiterate, I like these shows. I think they're good. It's just that they aren't the bangers that Sisters or The Oval, which honestly, season 3, I am dreading season 4. They aren't that popular. But I do feel like they shouldn't be just tossed to the side. I mean, is there a way to fix it? To be honest, I love Assisted Living the way it is. I mean, sure, the new sets and whatnot could do wonders, but I think the show is good the way it is. But of course, there's always room for improvement. But I have to applaud the new writers and directors, because I think that they really saved this show from the trash heap that was season 1. Then with House of Payne, it was just so dry. I mean, sure, we had the original Payne family there, Jasmine. Basically, it was kind of like Tyler saying, oops, I really effed up with the Paynes. Let me redo that by getting the cast back. But it felt like they were mannequins, or, just dupe, what is it? Doppelgangers of the original characters. Yeah, we had CJ, we had Jeanine, we had Jasmine, Miranda, Calvin, Malik. But based on like the dialogue they were given and the delivery and all that laugh track, it felt like they were just standing around. And I'm not saying anything against the actors, but it was the direction. It felt like they were just there for the sake of nostalgia, which leads to the next point of both shows. With Assisted Living, it was Brown and Cora. With House of Payne, the draw was getting people back. Jasmine's back. Malik is back. Oh yeah, I mean, this is great. It's like Tyler was relying on fan power and nostalgia and having the original cast back to make the show succeed, as opposed to writing good material. And I'll never forgive House of Payne for advertising, oh, everybody is aged up like 5 years, they're going to deal with new problems and whatnot. I'm like, this is great, because we're going to see what was life like for Calvin after the divorce. Malik and Jasmine, I think at this point, Malik would be out of college, Jasmine's in college. Like, what's their life like? But then it turns out that there's been major inconsistencies with the ages, and I think that CJ mentioned it to Curtis at one point in season 9. I forgot the numbers, but they had only aged up 1 or 2 years or a couple years. It's like, how the hell does that make sense? But I think that another thing to think about is the fact that, especially with House of Payne, it's clear these episodes are not aired in order, which really does hurt when it seems like we have somewhat of a development arc or any kind of arc going on with characters, but then we go 3 episodes and it's like, wait, this doesn't seem like it's in the right place here. So I think that these shows, in a way, kind of feel like the 2-week notice. It's like, you know what, I'm only going to bare minimum it in order to fulfill my requirements before it's time for me to go. And the contract for Viacom and Tyler Perry was 90 episodes annually of content for their network. And obviously, these shows being here, to me, I think is a good thing, because I know some people would flip. I mean, generally we get about, well, going back to 2001, I believe we got about 21 episodes of House of Payne, 21 episodes of Assisted Living. Some people will be like, well, hell, I'd rather see 40 more episodes of Sisters or 20 more episodes of The Oval. No, you wouldn't. Given how much those shows drag on, can you imagine how much slower they would be if they were given another 20 episodes per season? I know some people would just, I'd rather watch the worst of Sisters than House of Payne or Assisted Living. And that's fair. But at the same time, in terms of story, it would just be detrimental. Same with the haves and the have-nots, but that's another story. You all know about that. So, how can the shows be saved? Beats me. I'm not really aware of live television outside of the shows I review. Most of the things I watch is on the internet on my own time. I couldn't tell you if there are any specific Wednesday night shows that take away viewership from House of Payne or Assisted Living. I just feel like, to be completely honest, it might be better to nip them in the bud. Even though I love the shows, there's a reason why I stopped reviewing Assisted Living. You all know, season 2, views were non-existent, ad revenue was low. I brought back the reviews for, what was it, season 3, episode 5 last week. I said, if the video gets 2,000 views, I'll bring it back. Hasn't even cracked 1,000. So I might do 1 or 2 videos like this one, and then I did another discussion video about Medea, because when it comes to Assisted Living, the only videos that blow up, especially going back to season 1, were videos where I talked about Medea. When it comes to House of Payne, honestly, I feel like I could just stop doing my episode reviews and then only do certain videos where I talk about different things. Like, for example, the video I did about what seemed to be a deleted scene of Calvin and Miranda, that video is knocking on the door of 10,000 hits. You know, the episode from a couple weeks ago about the swag bags, when Calvin and Miranda kind of had a moment, but then they released promotional photos where it's like, wait a minute, that looks like a different scene that didn't make the cut of the episode. That video alone did numbers compared to the episode reviews. Or if I did a video about, oh, they mentioned Janine, or is this person dead, or is Jasmine coming back? Those are the videos that reach the top of the charts. I mean, the Is Janine Dead video, I think that is the third highest viewed video on the channel. Number 1 is still the Why Does Malik Look So Different? That's at 973,000 hits. There's a reason why I review House of Payne and not Assisted Living, because House of Payne pulls its weight. It helps pay my bills. It helps put money in my savings account for a house. Assisted Living does not do that. I know it sucks to say it, but the actors get paid. The directors get paid. The writers get paid. I get ad revenue. Don't get me wrong, I'm blessed to do what I do because I'm using it through the fair use policy. I'm reviewing the show. I'm helping to promote the show. But I don't get paid from Tyler Perry Studios, folks. I know that there are people who are disappointed where it's like, I wish that you could do videos because I know they don't get the most views, but I love your breakdowns and whatnot. But my attention needs to be directed elsewhere because guess what? This is a business. You know, I'm self-employed. I YouTube, I eBay. And the more money, or basically when you're in a business setting, especially when you're running your own thing, you got to think like these corporations and businesses do. I mean, to be honest, I still think one of the only reasons these shows are still in the air is because of Tyler's contractual agreements. I mean, if BET or Viacom really wanted to, it's like, Tyler, these numbers they're not doing well. You need to make something else. It'll be like, no, I've already filmed like 2 seasons in advance. So there you go. And from the network perspective, it's like, well, you got a point. I mean, nobody is putting out the work in the same speed you do, and it's cost effective because, well, it's on your studio and it's all your intellectual property. So we'll just put it out there and we'll work things out if we renew a contract or whatnot in 2024. So this is kind of like me saying, let's say hypothetically, if I was contacted by Viacom or Tyler Perry Studios and there was some sort of agreement where I got like, a little bit of money to like, hey, you know what? We love your reviews. You're literally the only person on the internet who actually reviews our show weekly. Let's make a deal. That's a little different than me using my free time, if you want to call it that. Basically time that I could be devoting to, instead of watching assisted living, doing the notes, recording the video, editing, I'm organizing cards to put on my eBay store. I'm watching another show or movie, which will do numbers compared to assisted living. I mean, hell, think of it this way. That one Miranda and Calvin video I did, where I talked about, that one like deleted scene from a couple weeks ago, and I don't really like to get numbers, but I will say that video so far has made about $154 in ad revenue. That video alone, it's not even 10 minutes long. It has gotten way more money than all of my assisted living season 2 videos combined in terms of ad revenue. That kind of tells you right there, time is money. So I can't waste time reviewing shows that don't bring in revenue. And it sucks because assisted living is one of the best shows that Tyler has on BET right now. Seriously. I'm not just saying that. Like I just said, I'm not paid by these people. I'm giving honest feedback. It's one of the best shows. House of Payne, it's run its course. It had its time. I think the show should have came back for maybe like a limited series just to kind of see where the characters were. And then that's it. I mean, if it blew up from there, hell, keep it going. But that's the thing. People need to work. And it's not to signal out Tyler Perry, because there are a number of authors, directors, writers who make movies, TV shows, and books, comic series, where stories and characters have long since overstayed their welcome, but at the same time, it's giving people jobs, and I can't argue with that. I'll never sit up here and criticize the opportunities Tyler Perry gives people. People who may never have had an acting gig before, or their careers were at a standstill until they got a phone call, an email from Tyler Perry Studios. But I can't tell you. I know we're almost 40 minutes into this damn video, but I can't tell you how to save the shows. I can't. I mean, I think House of Payne and Assisted Living, despite the massive improvement from their initial season on BET, I think the ratings tell the tale. I mean, when you're barely getting any views, and let's be honest here, part of me feels that maybe the only reason that first night of their family fun night of 2022 was because people thought, oh, maybe Sisters comes on tonight, maybe The Oval comes on tonight. But then when they saw it was House of Payne and Assisted Living the following week, well, that was it. They didn't want to watch it. These shows definitely have an audience, because they wouldn't be getting like 0.5s, 0.6s if they didn't. But the fans who really blew up Meet the Browns, who really blew up House of Payne, it's like, why would I watch a lesser version of the original that's better? And they play reruns of the original House of Payne. They play reruns of the Meet the Browns series on BET. And hell, I think they even got them on BET Plus. So why would I watch something that's lesser value? I mean, that's like somebody who watches the current MCU films, and it's like, why would I watch the Avengers cartoon from back in the 60s, 70s that were just god awful, when I could watch the better MCU versions of Captain America, Thor, Iron Man? I mean, I guess in that case it's the reverse, where the original stuff was worse than the current one, but I don't know. So that's really all I gotta say. I really had this might be his own video, but just to kind of tag it here at the end, I was talking with somebody this weekend, and given that the ratings are so low for Assisted Living and House of Payne, I said, you know what? Because I know Zatima is a BET Plus show, but if the network was really hurting for numbers, they'd be like, look, let's just put Assisted Living and House of Payne out of its misery. Either we'll put new episodes on BET Plus, or we'll just axe the shows completely. Let's go ahead and put Zatima on BET and see what happens. Bet money those 10 episodes will just kill it in ratings. And hell, like I said before, put the first season of the Haves and the Have-Nots on there and tell me it wouldn't do numbers. Because there are people who still haven't seen the show. I'm just saying. So, with that being said, folks, those are my thoughts on why House of Payne and Assisted Living are failing in ratings, to appeal to audiences. But despite the length of the video and all the cons I talked about, I hope you really walked away from this video knowing that there are some good qualities of it. And I've said it a number of times, but look, you know how it is. You could do 100 things right, but then if you do one thing wrong, that's the only thing people are going to harp on. But when it comes to these shows, even though they've done a lot of wrong, they have done right. They've gotten better. And it goes back to what Tyler has always said in critiquing or to critics of his methods. Why don't you get a writer's room? Look, when I had a writer's room back during the TBS days, the ratings tanked because that writer's room wasn't speaking to my audience the same way I was. And to be completely honest, as soon as I saw ratings dipping for Assisted Living Season 2, House of Payne Season 10, when there were other writers on these shows, as opposed to Tyler doing everything himself, the ratings began to go down. And I thought, damn. It's just proving him right. But at the same time, as someone who did watch the original Meet the Rounds and watch the original House of Payne, I noticed the increase in quality from the seasons that Tyler did solo to when new writers and directors came in. So this makes me worried. What about when future Tyler Perry projects come out and he's not at the forefront doing everything? Will the ratings not do well either? I mean, it's really baffling to me, because I'm wondering what happened? What was the factor that made ratings for both of these shows dip? Because look, I know this video is kind of based off an article from recent episodes of both of these shows, but no, the previous season for both shows are where ratings began to dip. And that's when I looked at the end of last year and decided there were certain shows I couldn't review anymore because my numbers weren't doing well at all. Because I'm like, wow, I didn't know my Season 2 Assisted Living videos were doing that bad. And I'm not even just talking about ad revenue. I'm talking about the views. I mean, only a few hundred views. But then in the other season, the one that came before, man, I got a couple thousand. I'm like, okay, that's good. But when videos are only getting 400 or 500 views, I'm like, okay, what's going on? House of Payne stays steady. And then there are those moments throughout a given season where I'll have 2 or 3 videos randomly blow up. Especially if they're Calvin or Miranda related. With Assisted Living, I don't have that thing that draws people to the channel. And it sucks because they're really good shows. So I've always thought that because Season 1 of Assisted Living, because Season 9 of House of Payne were so bad, that turned people off from giving the next season a chance. And that's really a shame because both shows truly improved. But I guess for every Sisters, there's 5 other shows that just don't get the same amount of fanfare as a Sisters. So that's all I gotta say. Yeah, this was a long video. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts. Why do you think House of Payne and Assisted Living just aren't, making the cut? Do you think they need to just be removed altogether? Or do you think that because Tyler has contract obligations to fulfill, they're just going to air the episodes and do what they got to do for the sake of the contract? Because already material that's been filmed, it's just the accessibility of Tyler Perry being able to pump out, several months of television in only a few weeks. Nobody else can do that. And that leads into another video I'm about to record about his Viacom contract and what the hell is BET going to do if Tyler decides to not renew, or if they decide not to renew with him. What's the plan? So thanks so much for tuning in. To any cast members of Assisted Living and House of Payne that watched the video, which I don't even know if there are people that watch it. Well, like I said, I'm a fan of the show, and if you know anybody behind the scenes, like, you know, directors, producers, or even people on social media that are behind, like, House of Payne Assisted Living, tell them to hit me up. Like I said, if there's a way to maybe cut a deal to show that, hey, this guy actually reviews the shows, he gives honest, you know, critiques, criticisms, and actually positivity, then, you know, like I said, if they cut a deal with your brother, then I'll bring the reviews back. I mean, and I'm not going to sugarcoat. I'm going to do the reviews like I do my reviews, honest. And if not, just watch a playlist, because I can't spend time on shows that don't bring in ad revenue. So, thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, as I mentioned earlier in the video. I can't remember if I did, but like and subscribe. You know, we're trying to get to 1 million subscribers at some point, but one step at a time, right? Yeah, I really hope the comments on this really go in detail. You know, like I did, I didn't just sit up here and rant and say both shows are crap, the original House of Payne is better, Meet the Browns is better. No, I went into detail going into my thoughts as well as what the audience has been saying about both shows since they first aired on BET. All right, guys, take care.